Global Affairs analyst Collins Nweke now joins me via Skype from Belgium. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast this morning. Talking about this Nigeria-Japan relationships and the expectations with this trip. Is the second, by the way. What are your expectations?
Well, my expectations are indeed in line with the plans, obviously, that the government of Nigeria has put out. Indeed, looking at areas of innovation, looking at education and healthcare, actually sounds very nice to me. I think what would matter in terms of actually consummating a real deal and partnership depends on the plan that Nigeria has on the table. Don't forget that this is not just targeting Nigeria. It is a conference, it is an event targeting the entire African continent. I would say that it's encouraging that Nigeria, is participating as one of the heads of states of African countries that are going to be there. And I believe also that Nigeria haven't understood that Japan is actually embarking on a curious departure of the tradition from the traditional way of international development, that they would underwrite the concept of ownership on the one hand and then partnership on the other hand in terms of international development. So yes, everything depends indeed on Nigeria.
Okay, and looking at the Nigeria-China relations, and now with another strong nation in the Asian continent now, do you also see some underlying competition or jostling now for Africa, for Nigeria particularly, from Asia to Africa?
Not necessarily, but I must say that competition is not necessarily a bad thing. But in this case, I believe there is enough to go around. Enough to go around in terms of Africa having quite a lot to offer, whereas also the development partners, be it in Asia, be it in the United States or Europe, also have their things to offer. So what we see, and I believe that TICAD, this Tokyo conference, actually underscores it in terms of looking more at partnership rather than doling out cash to African countries. So it all depends on what competitive advantage the African countries have. In the case of Nigeria, it is no longer oil, but it is other things. For example, agriculture and other non-oil sector. And Tokyo, on the other hand, has technology to offer to Nigeria. So it becomes, a thing of exchange. So yes, there is space for everybody to operate in cooperatively.
Collins Nweke, thanks a lot for your contributions on TVC Breakfast. Well, joining me now from Abuja via Skype, a security consultant and senior research fellow at the National Defense College, Abuja, Group Captain Sadiq Shehu. Good morning. Welcome to TVC Breakfast this hour. Talking about this lingering war in the Northeast. It appears to have shifted. If you look at the casualties in this recent attacks that we've seen now, an Islamic cleric's home was also burned. A mosque itself was attacked. Now, what does it tell you about the pattern of this Boko Haram insurgency now?
Insurgents always want to show that the government is weak. They want, and the only way they can do that is to harass the population. If they can make the population to be panicky, if they can make the population to lose confidence that the government cannot protect them, that is always the tactics of the insurgent. And to cause such panic, it costs very little. What they do is to go where there is no military or security presence and harass the civilians that are there. As you see, this harassment, as it is, It made the state governor to run to Abuja to go and complain. We have seen a lot of posts from people in the community. To the insurgent, this is victory. If he can make the people to lose confidence that the security forces cannot protect them, it is a deliberate tactics that is used by insurgents everywhere.
Oh, okay. And then looking at, other measures that we have seen, we've seen the establishment of super camps now for the military and all that. But then let us turn now to the agricultural sector. We understand that an NSCDC Agro Ranger Squad has also been set up now, is receiving kudos from the government to secure farmers now as they go out to their farms now to do the necessary work there. How much of a breakthrough are we going to get in these areas now?
As analyst Collins Nweke now joins me via Skype from Belgium to talk about this. Collins, it's good to have you join me right now. Let me ask this question that a lot of Nigerians often have in mind. When it comes to bilateral relations between Nigeria and some countries like Japan, it seems that the trade balances are always in favor of Japan.
Well, that is obviously so because Japan has a plan, just like any other development partner. Now, when we talk about international development, people immediately links it with aid. Now, we need to realize very, very importantly that international development has become a diplomatic tool by Western countries to engage African countries where they believe that they have commodities and other potentials that will help to develop their countries for their people. Now, has Africa got a plan, particularly Nigeria? No, I don't think so. Some time ago, about a decade or so ago, Nigeria commenced the one exercise that they called Nigeria Vision 2020, which is meant to be a strategic development plan for Nigeria. What became of that Vision 2020, which was meant to be in force, next year, is unknown. Now, President Buhari has led a delegation to Japan this time around. The nitty-gritty of their plans, beyond big announcements of the areas that they are focusing on for this visit, is unknown to the common man. So you see, that aspect of the ownership of the plan, the strategy by the Nigerian people, where people are expected to feed into whatever agenda that Nigeria is taking there, is completely lacking. Whereas in Japan, more than 2 years, because the last time this was held was 3 years ago. It's a 3-yearly event. Public opinion, debates and all of that have been ongoing in regards to what Japan wants to make out of this, exercise.
All right, Collins, a lot of Nigerians share this skepticism, but if we have to be a little more strategic going forward, what do you think Nigeria should be putting on the table in negotiation with Japan?
First and foremost, Nigeria has got to identify what its competitive advantage is over Japan. What do you have to offer? Certainly, it is no longer oil because oil has become an expired commodity. Now, the first thing that comes to mind, of course, is non-oil sector, agriculture, and the rest of them in terms of what Nigeria can offer, because we shouldn't always be talking about what Japan has to offer. So it's an exchange. So Nigeria has a lot of commodities, in the agri sector to offer Japan, and in exchange, technology is something that Japan is very, very strong in. But beyond Nigeria, being the dominant African economy, I believe that it will serve everybody better, both Japan and Africa, if we have an Africa-wide agenda for development.
All right.
With Japan.
All right. Thank you very much, Collins Nweke, for your insight into this issue right now. Thank you.